Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back. It's Tim and Julie Harris, and we've got another fantastic podcast for you today. And I say that at the top of every podcast because I believe it, because after we spend as much time preparing for today's show, it better be fantastic. And today's show is 12 months, one mission, be the agent everyone calls first. So what Julie has done an impressive job of creating for all of you, holy tamale lady, you spent a lot of time on this, is she has created a month by month, season by season, Center of Influence past client plan, holy tamale. And she's giving you all the drill down. Now you're going to want all these notes because I'm promising you I'm not going to sit on this podcast for the next 12 months as we go through all these points.
We won't get through all of them.
We won't get through all of them. So you want the notes, you want her plan, you want to go to harrisrealestatedaily.com and subscribe to the newsletter. It does not cost you a cent. All you've got to do is drop in your email address and then hop over to your normal email and double opt in, confirm that you want the subscription. That is where today's notes and everyday show notes are a living waiting for you. Costs you nothing. And also, as our way of saying thank you to all of you who have subscribed, which is over 20,000 of you, we are doing a special mastermind that we're really excited about. And it's going to be, we're going to do a handful of these. And the masterminds are specifically designed to help agents move past the three largest challenges, the biggest challenges they're having in their businesses right now. So we did a survey. We know what the three biggest challenges are. We're covering those on a mastermind. And this is a comprehensive mastermind. It's only going to, the invitation will only arrive if you have subscribed to the newsletter. So go to harrisrealestatedaily.com. And yeah, that's the way that we would like to stay in touch with you. So Julie, let's roll right in.
All right. 12 months, one mission, be the agent that everyone calls first. This is your past client sphere of influence plan. And you and I both know the biggest mistake that grizzled veterans say that they make looking back is it's not, doing more continuing ed. It's not all these things that you might think. I would have done a lot better job a lot earlier talking to my past clients, my center of influence. You guys refer that to as your database, right? I would have talked to my database more, because if you don't do that, you end up spending a lot of time and money and waiting and speculating. You have to spend the money going after the harder business to get that costs more money, which is new business. And your centers of influence and past clients, and Julie did say an opportune word there, hopefully it didn't get by you. You have to call them or meet with them in person. Doing passive digital lead follow-up with your centers of influence and past clients will get you maybe 10% of the overall opportunity that little, spoke of your lead generation on your lead generation wheel will generate for you. It's a fact that after 5 years, 61% of all business for agents comes from their centers of influence and past clients. It's a fact that your centers of influence and past clients are always the best folks to do business with, won't make you compete, won't ask to go after your commission, will be easiest, most grateful people to work with. Yes, you have to get to the point where you have the centers or they have the past clients, but all of you, even if you're a new agent, have the center of influence. You just have to know how to put the list together and how to create the plan. And that's what you're getting today. So make sure that when you're listening to what she's saying, you're understanding that your goal is going to be doing the proactive lead generation always, never stop, never just become dependent solely on centers of influence and past clients, because that is in itself a lot of waiting around for the phone to ring or waiting around for someone that you're calling to say yes. So you always want to do the proactive lead generation, but the centers of influence and past clients if you're really effective at it, following this plan and what we teach you in Premier Coaching, after usually 2 or 3 years, at least 50% of your closed business will come from centers of influence and past clients. It's astonishing how consistent that is, even more so in this day and age of social media, digital marketing, AI, the rest of it. People are gravitating more towards essentially real communication, real conversations, more than, frankly, I can ever remember. It's amazing. Yep. People, consumers, want to have meaningful conversations with you. They do. They actually do. Not
digitally, but with it's called your voice. Right. It's called person to person. That's what everyone's wanting. I think COVID kind of proved that how much we all definitely need to feel a real, innate interconnectedness with people in our, our group, our tribe, our community. And so that behavior is going to always be true. So Julie, let's just roll right in. And so this is a 12-month one mission, be the agent everyone calls first, past client center of influence plans. And this plan that you created has several categories of events you create, promote, and manage yourself, events you sponsor that are created by others, which is a great idea, and small gatherings for select segments of your database. So think about the idea here again is in-person communication, meeting with folks. And we do in Premier Coaching give you guys some conversation triggers, what to say if you're maybe socially awkward, as a lot of people are. You're going to be able to have easy, free-flowing conversations with folks IRL in real life when you use our simple conversation starter scripts. All right, Julie, let's talk about January.
Yes. And by the way, not a single thing on this list will cost you any kind of referral fees.
Yeah.
Or really any significant money at all, depending on what events we're talking about. And we're not going to talk about every single one of them. We're going to give you some ideas. We're going to talk about some of the things that we've done, some of the things that our clients have done. So we're going to go month by month, excuse me, for the most part.
Julie, let's commit to getting through May. Let's make this practical for them.
Deal.
Okay, we're going to get through May.
Okay, option one, starting in January, have a Happy New Year party for your past clients, your center of influence. Option two, send a how to winterize your home. Now, if you live in Miami, maybe that's not relevant. Adjust accordingly. How to hurricanize your home, you might do. You can send it with a video message. You can invite them to a get together. Perfect if your area is experiencing snow or blizzard conditions. Include preparedness tips, emergency contacts, or recommendations for local snowblower retailers. Now, one of my private coaching clients here in Dorado, Puerto Rico is going to do a hurricane readiness promotion for her past clients and centers of influence. Who's not going to want to have a list of everybody that you would call, we have our generators go out and the water needs refilled, and who's going to take care of my pets if I happen to be, off island while they need help. So isn't that a list that every single person would keep? Of course, I know that I would. So there's lots of different spins on this, right?
It's important to notice that January doesn't have a lot of things on the list because in January, a lot of people are coming down off the event-ridden November, December from the previous year. Yeah. So January, you're going to kind of give people a little bit of back off time. So don't expect them to show up. It's very hard. It's hard to get people to show up to anything in January, just FYI. First 2 weeks in January are almost always just like, blocked out mentally and emotionally. And the last 2 weeks.
Recovery month.
Exactly. And people are busier in the last 2 weeks. Now, I did have a coaching client that in January would do a goal setting, which was fascinating. This is a real estate broker, and he would do a goal setting thing for centers of influence past client at a local church. And they all to get together and they use our real estate treasure map at the specific section. I think it's chapter 7 or something. And they would fill that out as a goal thing for not just he wasn't doing it for real estate agents. He was doing it for anyone in his community that wanted to set new goals for the new year. That was a really great idea. And people were so grateful for that. So anyway, let's move on to February, yes. Julie.
Okay. Now, some of these are fun, right? So February pop buy idea, use red hot candies with a tag that says it might be cold outside, but the market is red hot, or something to that degree. There's lots and lots of pop buys. We have contests all the time in Premier Coaching because that's a daily semi-private interaction with your coaches, where people will post, what are you doing? Excuse me. What are you doing for pop buys this month? You can get lots of great ideas that way.
So what's a pop buy?
A pop buy is you're popping by past clients, center of influence. You can do that on taking your list and geographically working out, which neighborhoods you're going to go to, but you can also do pop buys just to your own neighborhood. You can say, I'm going to do 50 houses surrounding my own house.
But if you're giving away tchotchkes, that's probably going to be better off if you just focus on your centers of influence and past clients. Right. Mm-hmm. And if you've got 100 of them, then just divide it by 30 days and just essentially make it so you're going to make contact with a certain number. If you're going to do this, don't make the mistake of mailing it. Don't make the mistake of just dropping it on the doorstep. Try to do it when they're home, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, after 5 o'clock. Actually make an effort, but prioritize your list. Anyone who has successfully sent you a referral or tried to send you a referral in the previous 12 months, maybe they don't just get a little tchotchke thing of red hot candies. Maybe they actually get, a kiss and red hot candies. I don't know. Or a box of chocolates. You guys get it? It's February.
You can do a Valentine referral gift. Use heart-shaped candy or heart candles or something like that with a message. I love referrals, which are great for door knocking, pop buys, lead follow-up, open house giveaways, closing table surprises, delivering to new build reps when you ask them for their resale referrals. There's all kinds of ways that you can use that pop by tchotchke idea. And most of our coaching clients, when they do this, they're just getting things that they find at the dollar store, and then they are using their Grok assistant to come up with a really great little cute phrase. And then they're using them in various different ways. None of this, again, is very expensive.
Well, let me give you an ancillary idea for all this,
Mhm.
okay? So the other thing that we could incorporate into all this, if you wanted to, which I would, is taking your centers of influence and past client list and write handwritten notes to them and do a certain number every single day. Maybe do 5 a day, 3 a day, 2 a day, and just literally. And now, if you don't know what to say or what to write, use AI. It'll give you some good suggestions on little things you can say. Maybe your prompts for Grok would be, help me think of 20 short expressions of gratitude that I could be using for handwritten cards to give out to my real estate centers of influence and past clients. And what it'll probably do is take those, 20 ways of showing gratitude verbally, obviously in writing, and it might put a real estate spin on it or whatever, and then just write it all out and give them these and mail these postcards or mail these handwritten cards. Yes, this requires effort. Yes, this requires time. And no, it's not immediate business, but what you're doing is and definitely pay attention to people's birthdays, pay attention to things that are going to be maybe holidays, obviously, Valentine's Day and whatnot. But what you're doing is you're showing sincere gratitude, and that has to be the prevailing theme of any form of communication you do with centers of influence and past clients. It's easy to give them recipes and pumpkin pies and just all those things. That's passive shows of gratitude, and it's definitely effective, but do things that are going to be more effective by literally sending them a card, literally that you wrote, that says thank you, and tell them why you're grateful for them. That is going to be something they're going to keep. Whereas if you drop off a bag full of sweet tarts at their house for Valentine's Day, if you hand it to them, they're going to appreciate it. But what do you do if someone knocks on your door and gives you a tchotchke thing like that? Even if you know this person and they're a friend of yours, it's going to go on the countertop someplace and you're going to forget about it, or you're going to give it away, or you're going to give it to your kids, right? It's just a little.
It's better than nothing, but it's not the same as like a handwritten card. I'm glad that you brought that up, because the handwritten cards are something that you can integrate into every single day. You don't have to make that a seasonal thing, or I only do that in January. The consistency is definitely important. And think about how special you feel when you get a random card of handwritten of gratitude, right? That's a very important thing to do.
How often does it happen? I mean, I write notes for Julie and Zoe, and I leave them out.
We keep them.
Yeah, we
love them.
I mean, they're everywhere, But so how do you go about doing this and making it into a system? You can go to paperplus.com, or Paper Plus, I think, has physical locations. And don't do an 8.5 by 11 if you're going to do this. And don't do your business business reply envelope. Don't put any brokerage information on the outside. You want it to look like, and I would go with a square, something that looks like an invitation. And even if you can, go with a non-normal color, and then it'll always get opened. And, after a while, if you, for example, are mailing out these, on a regular basis, these gratitude cards, these gratitude, things, you're going to start. And if you always have, let's say your color is blue or your color is pink or something, right? The paper, you can get them in different colors. Like I said, they're going to then identify, after they've gotten a few of these, what they actually are. And if you were, if you curate your messaging to maybe something about them, make it even slightly more personal, I promise you it's going to have all the impact in the world. It's going to be more impactful than 12 months worth of tchotchkes that you dropped off at their door. Because why? They know you wrote it. They know you thought of them. They know you took the time to actually do the work. And in this day and age, I was joking with Julie, and she was joking with me, and we said this, but we do make a point, and we do a lot of this sort of thing in our home, just trying to make an impression on Zoe. But who else does it? I mean, who else does it do you guys do it? You probably did at one point and you stopped doing it. But when was the last time you received a handwritten card from anybody? Isn't that interesting? Like never, right? Maybe on your birthday, but even that's just someone's signature. When was the last time someone actually, now, if you all of a sudden if you today received a handwritten card from even your insurance agent, maybe your insurance agent who you only spoke with, once last year for some reason, rando reason. And then he says something nice about, the improvements you made to your house, or the fact that he saw on social media, your kid won the soccer game or whatever it was. And he writes you a nice little show of gratitude saying, thank you for thank you for trusting me as your insurance professional and actually making it feel personal. That's going to be something you're going to remember forever. That's going to transcend all other forms of marketing you ever get from an insurance guy. You guys get it? And these ideas are so simple. And when you make them habitual, the compounding effect of doing this type of thing on the regular is extraordinary. Remember I said, after 5 years, 61% of all your business will come from centers of influence and past clients, but that doesn't happen automatically. You have to do some of the things that what Julie and I are talking about now.
That's assuming you make an effort to nurture them. That's right.
Exactly.
And I have to say, you were talking about not making the card look like some corporate random, generated card. You make it more personal. Don't make it look like it was a realtor card. Make it look like, oh, what's this? Who sent this to me? This looks like an invitation. And then you open it up. Those are the types of things that are surprising and that they'll be kept. So make them kind of special.
So the next thing on your list you have labeled spring, but I think you're saying is April, March and April.
It's like
basically.
A second quarter type thing.
March
We could have
and
bundled
April.
them together. Yes.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so the first thing, and I do have a lot of coaching clients that are doing this, and it always gets well received. Tax time tips: send free CMAs, comparative market analysis, and closing statements, especially to last year's clients. They're preparing their taxes, they're showing their closing costs, things like that. You can record a video email offering updated market analysis, follow up with personal phone calls. That's the free CMA, and you can kind of bundle that with fighting property taxes. Same idea. You're providing evaluation.
Let's stop there because that's the killer idea.
Yeah.
So this is, in my opinion, this is the killer idea. In most of the cities around the United States, most of the states rather, your property taxes are reassessed. Assessed.
Yes.
I forget which word. Is it reassessed or assessed, Julie? Do you remember?
Well, they get assessed in the first place when you close and then reassessed when you're trying to raise your property tax, right?
Which they do every year. So they get reassessed, but there's a system for you to contest the reassessment because magically the reassessment's always going to be for more every year and you're always going to have your property tax bill raised. Well, on every single auditor's website, you can go to, like when Julie and I lived in Austin, we lived in Williamson County, and you could go to Williamson County's website, and there was this one, place on the website where you could download this form, which is a one-pager, where you can test what the property tax valuation was. You had to include in your contestant, not an appraisal, but a CMA from a licensed real estate broker, basically a licensed real estate agent or broker. And then you included the CMA showing the lower price, and you included the filling out of the form. And I bet you 100% of the time they'd lower your property tax valuations. They would just do it because they're not going to want to put up a fight over it. And so and I'm not saying it was a lot of money, but there were a lot of attorneys that were doing that for a fee, and they would end up making a percent of the amount of money that they saved you every year. Before we knew we could do it ourselves, we actually had an attorney do it for us. They send out postcards because, they're working their centers of influence and past clients too. And they send out postcards, say it's property tax reassessment time. And we'll charge you, what was it, Julie? 10% of the amount of money that they save us?
Something like that. Yep.
Yeah. And so we ended up paying him I think he got it reassessed for $10,000 or no, for an amount that saved us $5,000 a year or something. It wasn't a lot.
It's significant. I mean,
but he ended up getting $500 for filling out a form and doing a CMA. That's my point. Okay. So you guys can do the same thing. Now, if you're sending when Julie and I, when we were living in Ohio, when we were selling real estate, when we were doing this very same idea, we would, exactly what Julie's saying. And the neighbors loved us because we lived in an expensive area with expensive property taxes. And we weren't talking, we weren't sending out just listed and just solds. We did just solds. We didn't do just listed. But then what we would send out is these offers for us to help them get their property taxes down every year. And we always took listings from that.
Yep.
Always. And I'll tell you the listing leads we got. So let's say Bob and Betty are thinking about putting their house for sale in June or July, hopefully this year, maybe next year. And they know they want to make their house as marketable as possible. And one of the ways to do it is get their property tax bill lower. So, it's going to give them a competitive advantage because the new owner won't have to pay as much in taxes. Hypothetically, it looks better anyway. And they would get the offer for us to help them accomplish that particular goal. We'd even tell them in the marketing that this is the purpose of it, to save you money. But if you're thinking about putting your house for sale too, it'll make your house more attractive because the property tax assessment will be less. You guys following me here? And people would be grateful. We do the assessment. We do exactly what I just said. And we would get the listing because we did something nobody else would. And we did that every single freaking year. And we always picked up the most professional and a lot of times really expensive. I'll say this too. Oftentimes the people we would do this, what I'm saying for you right now, we had no connections to. They were not part of our centers of influence and past clients. This was in the area that we used to farm. I'm thinking about all this, Julie, remembering? And so we pick up a lot of new people that will go into our centers of influence and past
And we
clients.
talk to them earlier than when they would normally have been interviewing agents. I think that's key too. And the thing is that we were providing value. You know, a lot of agents don't do past client center of influence, or in this case, geographic farm outreach.
We did both, right? We do it for our centers, but we did
Yeah.
both, but we realized when it worked so good with centers of influence and past clients that we did it for this little community. Julie, you remember how many houses were in New Albany Country Club?
5,000.
Wasn't that big? 5,000. Okay.
5,000. Yeah.
Yeah. So we would do this for everybody. And I bet you we picked up 10 listings a year from this probably.
Yeah.
And
Well,
average one was probably $1 million, million three or something. Yeah.
But this goes back to providing value. You're literally saving them money.
Yeah.
And you're helping them prepare to make even more money on their home. And you're providing them comparables so they know what kind of numbers they're dealing with before they're even ready to stage the home.
Now, this next idea Julie came up with a while ago, but it's such a great idea, Julie.
This is one of my favorite ones. Adopt a pet with, let's see, it's called Buy or Sell with Me, Adopt a Pet for Free. Now, we used to do it with our local ASPCA. There are tons of shelters, no-kill shelters. It's not, but the ASPCA happens to be very organized about this. Now, you can promote your Buy or Sell with Me, Adopt a Pet for Free in many different areas. You can put it on your home brochures, on your website, and your social media.
Your pre-listing
everywhere.
pack. Yeah, your pre-listing pack, your listing presentation.
That's why this says like spring or seasonal. This is not tied to a particular month or a holiday. This is whenever you want to promote it all the time. And we would run it all the time.
Let me expand on it. Okay. So we would call the Humane Society when we were going to do something like, when we're going to talk about more of these ideas, but we would get we'd always carve out, for example, let's say, I remember after September 11th, Julie and I did a canned food drive at our house. Did we do it at our house or someplace else? It was at our house, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. And we did it, and we had a party there. We had a big house and we had a party there. And I remember we did, they brought up by like 2 or 3 dogs or cats or whatever it was for adoption. And we did other things. In October, we would do what Julie calls Pumpkin Fest. We're going to get to that probably here. And then we would have them come out and they'd have a little booth. So we always were involving the Humane Society, and they would then in exchange, not even in exchange, it was just basically what they would do is they would do press releases into the local media saying, we're going to be doing an adoption, animal drive at this particular location at Tim and Julie Harris's, whatever the charity name was. And that would be free marketing and advertising, but also just mountains of goodwill in the community. And we love pets too. So that was an easy button. And
That's right. Go ahead.
No, I'd say we did real estate transactions from people just because of the Buy or Sell with Me, Adopt a Pet for Free. They didn't want to adopt a pet, but they appreciated the fact that we were doing it.
They made us warm and fuzzy. They were animal lovers, So, and before you think that Buy or Sell with Me, Adopt a Pet for Free is going to make you broke, most of the Humane Society adoption fees are like $35 or $45. You have a little star that says you have to qualify. That just means that they have to sign that they're not going to be breeding animals as a result of this. That's all between them working it out. But yeah, you're not going to spend very much money on it, but you're going to make back so much in goodwill in the community and transactions you wouldn't have otherwise had. So that's a fun one that you can run all the time. Now, when May rolls around, you can do Memorial Day participation. In your town, it's already organized by some other organization or organizations. There's probably going to be a parade. There's probably going to be food trucks and all kinds of things going on. So this is a good opportunity for you to piggyback on an event where there's already going to be tons of people, hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people in your community on a holiday, taking the day off. Think of how many conversations you can have. One event, multiple contacts is really good. You can pass out candy, water bottles, American flags. You can label your own water bottles. You can record a Facebook Live or a short video. You can do something tied to veterans. There's all sorts of directions you can go with Memorial Day. You could door knock your neighborhood with flags. People love that. And of course, candy for the kids and all that.
That's probably the best idea. That's the least expensive to do. So if you were to take, for example, and you can order these in bulk, American flags on sticks, and then take your business card and tape it to or just say, sponsored by, Tim and Julie Harris or whatever, eXp Realty, and you were to tape it to the sign and you were to give it to
I have a relic from when we used to do it. There you go.
Oh, do you really?
From Zoe's room.
Are you showing it?
Yeah.
I'm not watching you.
Oh, you're not.
Anyway,
it looks like this.
Okay. So now what you could do is you could go and actually just on the curb so like some of you guys don't know this, but so if you have sidewalks in front of your house, between the sidewalk and the city street. That's actually city ground. The owner of the house takes care of it, but technically that's not their property. That's part of a city easement. And from the sidewalk to their front door, that's their property. So what we would do is we'd go around in the community and we just put American flags everywhere, and people left them up. And then, there are American flags with our names on them. We had a little army of, our neighbors' kids that we pay to put them in everybody's yard. Who's going to, you take that American flag? I guess in some kind of parts of the country, maybe, but not where we lived. And people are really grateful that we put American flags. We always put them by their front walk and they could see them. And, that's somebody who's really nice that did that. Who did that? Oh, it's Tim and Julie Harris. And that always got us business. Even if it didn't get us business, it got us really a mountain of feel-good points.
Yeah, that's right. Don't be a secret agent, get out there in your community. It's interesting, Tim, every now and then I'll have a, shall we say, discussion with our more drivery clients, or maybe less amiable, then they'll be like, I don't want to do all this stuff. I don't want to leave my office. Who does all that, right? And I always remind them, while you're deciding that this is something that you can't bring yourself to do because it's just not your jam, it's not your personality, how many listings were taken today because somebody knew that person as a community leader, as somebody that participated and gave back? Maybe they gave them a free CMA and helped them fight their tax bill. There are listings going on right now that are being taken without competing, without arguing over commission, without asking for kickbacks or any of the things that everybody hates even discussing.
She means referral fees. She means referral fees, not kickbacks.
Or more referral fees, all of the things, and even almost objection free because they already know, love, and trust that person. So if you're feeling icky resistance that this is just really too amiable for me, I don't want to go and do pop buys. I don't want to really do a Memorial Day parade. That's just not me. Remember that while you are feeling that resistance, there are people who are having very nice, fun transactions. In fact, if we were to interview all of our listeners and ask them if you could choose what type of listing, what source of listing you would take right now, would it really be a for sale by owner, or would it be a past client who already trusts you? I think we know the answer, right?
Well, I don't know the answer, Julie. I'd take both.
Well, obviously, but if you could craft, you'd say, well, it's probably somebody I already know who, is easy to get along with. Anyway.
Yeah, I know for sure. Well, I mean, there'd be no sales resistance because if you're listing a centers of influence and past clients, you're going to get a call or a text and they're going to say, need to put my house for sale. And that's going to be the extent of it.
Come on
now,
over.
I will caution you though, in a changing market like we are now, you've got to be treating even your closest, dearest centers of influence and past clients, your friends, you have to treat them exactly like you would a normal retail customer, where you pre-qualify, you send the pre-listing pack, you show up on time, you follow our 7-step listing process. Because when times like this, where the sellers are more nervous about who they're going to list with, if you show up in flip-flops and casually, just taking business for granted, they'll probably not list with you, even if they're your best friend forever. You sit next to them at church every Sunday, because they didn't feel like you were going to be professional enough to get the house sold, because they knew that there was more of a challenge in getting homes sold. So bottom line there, sidestep from our topic, but treat every single listing opportunity exactly the same, follow the exact same system every single way. You are McDonald's, you are making your cheeseburgers every single way. You're not customizing them depending on who the customer is. That's the thing you better remember. Yes, all right, June, June. I just called you June. All right, Julie, let's move on to June.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, so the paper and pancakes, this is a simple one. Everybody has documents. We put it in June because it's after tax season. You're tired of looking at paperwork. You've got all those files and documents to shred. Everybody does. This is something you can promote on your social media. You could do a video. You can do calls. You can do outreach. But paper and pancakes, there are shredding companies that can be parked next to like a pancake truck. You could do it at a breakfast place.
People don't know about this, Jules.
There are shredding trucks that pull up and you throw your file, your 5,000 pages of junk in there. I haven't seen these, but I've had clients tell me that they also do that for electronics. Like you can, I guess, grind up an old cell phone or something. I don't know. But paper and pancakes, the paper shredders are more common.
Let me add to this. Okay, so this would be a good opportunity to involve the Red Cross, and we're the Red Cross. Every time Julie and I would do an event, we always tried to figure out how to involve the American Red Cross. I'm going to give you guys kind of a rundown. I'm sure Julie's going to talk about this in October.
It's coming up. The pumpkins.
Yeah, but it's not there, Julie Harris. Look at your October notes.
It is.
So
Summer, fall, October Pumpkin Fest.
Ah, okay. So oh, I see it right there. Late summer, fall. Yep. So the American Red Cross, and this is again, you do this in June. You might want to do this in summer, fall, but you call up the American Red Cross and you simply say, I want to I'm doing this event. There's going to be probably, 100 people, 200, 500 people that show up. And I would like to do a blood drive. The blood drive could be done in a truck. American Red Cross has mobile
The
units.
blood mobiles.
Right. Or they're going to want to do it in like a local school so think strategically. So find out what they will require. And maybe the blood mobile is out and about. So they need to do it in a facility where they can put out gurneys. And so you might want to then call the local church or the school or whatever and ask if you can use the parking lot to do your paper and pancakes shredding party and also do a blood drive. And the blood drive will happen, someplace inside the school. That's the way we did it, by the way. And the principal always said yes. It was an elementary school. So then here's the benefits of working with the American Red Cross. Aside from all the intrinsic benefits of being part and parcel to raising or to, blood drives, right? Which in itself is pretty noble. They will actually American Red Cross calls every single person who's ever donated blood that's in their directory, obviously, that's anywhere close to that blood drive day and time location, and they'll ask them to set up an appointment to donate blood. And they will then do press releases. They'll do press releases in the local paper. They'll do press releases every single place you can possibly imagine. And everybody, all major news sources, will always print an American Red Cross blood drive. Then you want to call the event, you want to brand the event with your name, because then the American Red Cross and Tim and Julie Harris are going to be holding a blood drive at 123 Elm Street at the Elm Street, whatever elementary school. And that's, again, an amazing way. And we would do this and we would have people that would thank us for the blood drive, then oftentimes tell stories about, how just usually very personal stories, surprisingly personal stories sometimes. I remember some of them about, when they donated blood before, or how a blood donation saved somebody's life that they knew, or things like that. Mm-hmm. So you do this and you're going to, again, reinforce the proactive lead generation. So all this passive stuff, all this community building stuff, centers of influence, past client intermingled with the community stuff, because your community will become your center of influence, not past clients. That'll take time, but you guys get the concept here. When you intermingle that, so you're doing some of these things that we're telling you guys about. Maybe you're doing all of them, and you're doing the shredded paper thing, and you're doing the thing in January, and you're doing some of the other ideas that we're going to share with you. Then you see an expired in the neighborhood and you call that expired. That expired is going to have a high level of familiarity with you, and you're not going to have to try to fool them on social media that you're some sort of mayor of your town. You've already earned the right to be seen on a higher level than your competitors are, because you've done the work, because you haven't tried to shortcut anything, because you haven't tried to hit the easy button, because you've actually done the blood drive. You've actually done the other charity things, that, the Humane Society thing. That is how you really elevate yourself to a point where you're going to be operating where the air is indeed rare, and you're going to start getting opportunities that you can possibly imagine, because you have risen yourself to that status in their mind that very few people ever will be willing to put the work into. There is no shortcutting getting to that level. You have to do the work. And that's something, again, I know that nobody wants to tell you. Everyone wants to tell you can, brand your way into it, market your way into it, postcard your way into it. You can't. You have to do the real work in the community. Remember I said, I think it was yesterday, that when you ask a top producing agent, what are the things that they do for lead generation? They're always going to say marketing, branding, and social media, and my great videos. What we're telling you today is what they actually do to generate consistent business over the long term. But this stuff is rarely going to generate an immediate transaction for you. It's going to reinforce all the proactive lead generation work that you do. It's going to make it almost so like you're bulletproof. When you call, oh my gosh, it's actually Julie Harris is calling me. You sometimes they'll even say that, right? Yeah. That's your reputation essentially seeded the territory before you showed up on the phone, let alone in person. And the probability of you not taking that business is about zero. You guys following us in all this? That's how you make yourself legendary. All right, Julie, let's move on to summer, tornado, hurricane, fire season.
We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, we did.
I want to go to Pumpkin Fest. We've already
we did. But this is the hurricane preparedness thing. Oh. This is the, all those types of things. But in summer too, the only one I would add is that they're planning on going away for the summer. do a checklist of things that they could do to prepare the house to be vacant for a long period of time. And
Mhm.
also include in there, they can put things in like, cameras, ring cameras and things like that. Just stuff like that. Anything of value, anything of
Yeah.
use that everyone will be appreciative. There's a lot of people that are doing staycations where their vacation is at home. And so maybe you want to have a list that you're going to give them of things they can do with their kids since they're not going
Locally.
to
Yeah.
exactly locally, so things like that. Think out of the box. All right, late summer,
Absolutely.
fall, Julie Harris.
Okay, so late summer fall is what brought us to the blood drive with the American Red Cross. The one thing that we didn't mention, because you went through all of the great benefits there, it's not like they're charging you to do any of that. They're not charging you to prospect for you to get people to show up. They're not
Yeah.
charging you for the blood mobile. They're not charging you for the hospital beds. It's basically a free event that has tons of great promotion for you, especially with those press releases. So I just wanted to point that out. Then that brings us up to October and the Pumpkin Fest. Now I'm bringing this up as a late summer / October because it does require a little bit of planning. Most of you are listening to this, in replay, who knows when, but earlier in the year. So you have time to plan. You can host the Pumpkin Fest at your home. The first one we did was in our front
Let's
yard.
tell them what a pumpkin fest is.
Okay, so the Pumpkin Fest is you go to a local pumpkin farmer, okay, or wherever you can source them, and you agree to buy. I would start probably with 200 to 300 pumpkins. You buy them for wholesale, which is about 50%.
Julie, let's even take it back
Yes,
further. Let's give them the real drill down, okay?
sure.
So let's say you live in some urban area, there's no pumpkin farmer that's nearby. You're gonna have to go online and you're gonna have to find out who the pumpkin farmers are. And I don't care where you are, because pumpkins are obviously a seasonal crop.
Yep.
You're gonna find somebody that's growing pumpkins.
Ask
and
your
you
croc assistant.
Yeah, there you go. Ask Grok, and then go and find, and then call the farmer up or whoever, and then offer to buy a certain a number of pumpkins, and he will deliver them to you just exactly as you envision them being delivered, sometimes in boxes, sometimes not in boxes. And then you'll have the truck will arrive. And we did this every year. It was quite hilarious. But like at 5 a.m. or maybe the night before, you don't want them showing up the night before because the teenagers won't figure out that they're there, and they'll show up after you leave and they'll smash most of them.
Yeah, you
Don't
want
ask
that.
how we know. So do it the morning of if you can. And then, so the pumpkin truck shows up at 6 a.m. and then you have to help unload I know this is a lot of work, but it's worth
I
it.
know, but pause right there. Invite 5 of your past clients, sphere of influence people to help you.
That's right.
They're happy to help you, and it's fun.
You have to unload the pumpkins, and then you get some bales of hay. You get some places where people can take pictures that look like they're, out in the farm field someplace. Maybe you are in a farm field, so it's even easier. You try to get somebody with an old Chevy 3100 5-window truck to park his truck there. You can set up some decorative things. You can make this really fun. Easier said than done in some
Get a
parts of the country.
photographer, do pumpkin photo shoots.
Exactly.
You can start this small and keep on building and building. But this is something, when we did it in our neighborhood, we got so many compliments that people said, now this is in the Midwest where that time of year it's rainy and muddy and gross and cold. And they said, boy, it was sure nice to just do this in the neighborhood and not have to drive 20 miles out and then hike for an acre to get to pumpkins.
Or just buy some pumpkin at the grocery store because it felt
Yeah.
more personal. So the pumpkins are all sitting out in different places, and then they show up and they pay a flat fee. We're not weighing them and based on the size, but 100% of the money from the pumpkins goes to a local charity. So we wouldn't even pay ourselves back. Pumpkins, by the way, when you buy them wholesale, are really cheap. Now you could have somebody underwrite this if you didn't want to spend the money. You could you could just fill in the insurance company, title, mortgage, whatever, and they're going to have a banner there. Maybe they're even going to be there helping you unload the pumpkins. But the point of it is this is going to be a highly visible, and the kids love it. And the families will love it. You're going to do lots of things like that. Tie it with the American Red Cross. So now you have the Red Cross that's promoting it. We got our local Starbucks to guess what? If you go to Starbucks and you ask them to donate coffee, they'll only do coffee. They're not going to do any, drinks or food, but they'll give you gallons of coffee. And you can sell the coffee or you can give it away. We gave it away. We gave everything away. So this is something that people would look forward to every year. We set it up at a high an intersection where there was always obviously a lot of comings and goings. There was a Tim Hortons that was over there. There was it was right in this great intersection. And we would get people that would look forward to it. And so we started in our front yard, like Julie said, and that wasn't sustainable. And then we had to move to this parking lot in this field for this elementary school. And we always ran out of pumpkins by like 11 a.m. because everyone would show up earlier and there was no limit on how many pumpkins you would buy. And I think we were charging $5 a
It
pumpkin.
was bonkers.
It was bonkers. And they would show up just to basically know that they were buying their kids wanted to. They could take pictures. They were there for the blood drive. They're there for the free coffee, some of them, I'm sure. And then they would, buy the pumpkins. And then the feedback we got from that was extraordinary. I would say of everything we did, Julie, for the community, especially in New Albany, that was the biggest home run because and I do remember one time though, we didn't order enough pumpkins. Do you remember when that big coach that like with 100?
Yeah, you were reading my mind. I think it was from a retirement home or something,
It
right?
was a retirement community that basically loaded up. It probably was like 60 or 80 people from the retirement community. And they showed up like late and all the pumpkins were gone.
They were out.
It was sad. Anyway.
Yes. When I say adjust accordingly, that's where that phrase comes from is every
but
year you do more. And we had lots of directional signs. I'm sure that's probably what caused some of this, but it's better to have more people show up and be sold out than have it flop. So, I agree. This was one of my favorite events and that's why we did it year after year. And it grew and it evolved and it was really fun. So eventually it landed in the front lawn of the elementary school and was combined with a blood drive. So we had blood donation inside the school. We had pumpkins on the outside of the school. We had coffee. We had one of my clients does this and they use hot apple cider and they make it a whole thing. You can add gourds and a photo booth and the whole thing. So
I remember, Julie, the first year we involved the American Red Cross, I remember like they were totally autonomous. Like we involved them, they agreed. It was a forms, nothing to do it. To get them to, you got them a location. They said yes. And I was like, okay, I was worried that, somehow, I don't know why I was thinking this way, but I was worried that somehow blood donation, Tim and Julie Harris, real estate, pumpkins, maybe it was a bridge. Maybe it was a bridge too far. It was too confusing.
When you put it that way.
Yeah. But I remember walking into the elementary school and they had set up, it was so freaking professional. They had all these chairs laying, sitting out, and there were probably 50 or 75 people that were sitting there waiting to donate blood. And I think they set up gurneys in the elementary room. Where isn't it in the classroom?
The cafeteria.
Cafeteria. Yeah. And it was unbelievable that they were able to it's the American Red Cross. I shouldn't have been
super
surprised.
Operational. They knew what they were doing. They knew how many people they called. They knew how many confirmations they had. They had the forms together. They had the beds together. It was very impressive.
It was. And it made us look good. That's the moral of the story. Yeah. They made us look good because we were aligning with something that obviously all of those hundreds of people that were donating blood obviously fell aligned with the American Red Cross. Those people got to know at least our names because we didn't have time to meet with everybody. But you guys get the point here. This is something, and it was branded with Tim and Julie Harris, Tim and Julie Harris family team, and that was something that always got us long tail benefits well into the holiday season, and that rolls us into November.
One last thing, because this does tend to be an event that blows up, and there's a lot of people there, and you're talking all the time, the entire day. Have a co-pilot that is filming for your social media.
Definitely.
So that you don't have to be like, wait, let me take a picture. Let me take a video. Have somebody to help you with that because you're going to want to have a lot of conversations. And this is a place where it really is very valuable to do something on social media because then you continue with the event even after it's over. You can continue to engage with your past clients, your center of influence. Then they make mental note to self, I got to go to that event next year. And that's how it gets bigger and bigger. So I just had to make sure we kept that off that way.
And remember, do your best to try to get the contact information for as many of the people that show up as possible. So maybe
you can do a raffle for a giant pumpkin or something.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. So do some kind of raffle. Your in game for anything you ever do is always capture their personal information and then put them into your newsletter because you should have a newsletter. We give you guys the instructions, the blueprint on how to create your own newsletter in Premier Coaching. But everything has to be feeding back to a way for you to call them. Then everyone that went, that you have the contact information for, you personally call them and thank them for coming. You're closing the loop. They came, they donated blood, they had the free coffee, they maybe bought a pumpkin, and then you call them and you thank them for coming. Thank you for participating. This is Tim Harris. I just wanted to really tell you, and then, they're going to be really impressed that you called. They're going to be very thankful that you, were there to help them, and then ask them, say, so listen, as a as a service to my centers of influence and past clients, or you could say my friends and my family, which I put you in the category of that now. I like to call everyone once a month and give them a quick snapshot of what their home's value is in this marketplace. So frankly, they don't have to worry. So you don't have to worry about what's going on with your home's value. And I happen to have done the research for you already today. Would you like to know how your home's value is doing in this market? And they're all going to say yes. And all I want you to do is give them a quick absorption. So their house is worth $600,000. There's, it's currently 10 houses for sale that are worth $600,000. Five of them, sold $600,000 houses sold last month. So you're going to say, well, in this marketplace right now, if you were to put your home for sale, it takes approximately 60 days to sell, which tells us that the sellers are still very much in the driver's seat. So go you. Oh, and I've got some more great news for you. You bought your house 3 years ago, or if you bought your house 5 years ago, let's say, it's more than gone up by 50% in the last 5 years. I don't know if you knew that. And you're just giving them good news on good news on good news. You've called them, you showed gratitude, you thanked them. You've now basically put yourself in a position of being a real contributor to the community. You're not just a normal real estate agent. And now you're giving them great news about their house. You don't think that's going to put you on a shelf in their minds that's going to be, always the agent they're going to think of when it comes to buying or selling real estate? Of course. And if you want to be extra bold, you can say simply like this: after you've given the snapshot of their home's value, you could say, would you like me to do more in-depth assessment of your home's value? It's called a CMA, and I can just email it to you. And if they say yes, and then say, you can just say this: well, just so I can know I can do a really good job for you, were you thinking about putting your house for sale sometime soon? And just ask the question. And then, or you could just even say, so if you were to put your house for sale now, ideally, how soon would you want it sold? And fish out whether they're actually thinking about selling. And if they don't want a CMA, or if they don't want, if they're just happy with the information you gave them, say, oh, by the way, before I let you go, do you know of anyone that's thinking about buying or selling real estate that I should be helping in this market? Emphasis on the word helping. And you're going to get leads that way. Maybe you don't want to be that assertive on your first contact. Maybe you could start feeling more comfortable with them over time, but that's how you're going to make this really amazingly powerful center of influence and past client list. And by the way, these things don't cost you anything. All right, Julie, let's roll into November and December.
All right. So right up there with the Pumpkin Fest. I like these a lot as well. So in November, host a Thanksgiving food drive. Promote this on your social media, websites, email, etc., and submit press releases for local news. They'll always pick that up. You can partner with a local food pantry, church, or synagogue. They're always doing promotions. You're just going to piggyback on somebody else's promotion, most likely, versus trying to engineer it all yourself, because you're going to be busy. It's Thanksgiving as well. And you can, maybe if you do a smaller version of this, you could do a Friendsgiving dinner for your VIP clients. Some of our elite coaching clients do this. They have 12 or 15 of their best past clients, best meaning like recent referrals or recent closings, or maybe most influential. So you can do different versions, small, medium, and large of this. You could sponsor local families in need with a surprise turkey dinner. Ask your church who their most needy families are, and get together, and maybe you have 10 of them, and you go in person, and you make it a nice, warm and fuzzy thing. So there's different versions of this, but it's all kind of revolving around a food drive type of charity event.
Let me give an idea too. One of our, I'd say our most highest end clients, what they're going to do during November, December is they're going to do some kind of cocktail party, a meet and greet type thing, some kind of networking thing. Those are going to be for the more urban, like if you're living in a city, that's going to be a hot button, at some club, you're going to just do it, that's going to cost you some money. You're going to have some sponsors. But the thing that, for the most part, 99% of you can employ is rent a movie theater on a Saturday afternoon matinee time. And then you want to have your past client centers of influence show up for the, a showing of whatever the holiday movie is. Every year there's assuming it's not something offensive,
some special release or something like that.
But it's whatever the movie of the movie, the feel good family movie du jour is of that particular holiday season. So have them show up to that. It doesn't cost them anything. The movie theater won't charge you any more than maybe a few $100 because they're going to make all their money out the concessions. You're not paying for the popcorn and whatever. That's where the movie theater is going to be. They're going to be motivated because they never fill theaters during the afternoon matinees. You're going to be doing a promotion. They're going to be making money where they normally wouldn't be making money. but here's how you can actually even scale this idea. You're kind of stacking ideas, right? So the stacking would be you tie this in with a food drive, a canned food drive. So call up the, local church, synagogue, or call up the local food bank, whatever it is, and ask them what they're in the need of. You could even this time of year doing wrap presents or unwrapped presents for boys or for girls, something. Start thinking about how you can stack these ideas so that like the admission for the movie is going to be a donation to the, ABC food bank or something like that for the holiday season, canned food, that type of thing. And you will be shocked how generous people are. We did this canned food drive thing 1 year, and we were doing this basically the same idea, but we did it at our house again. And people brought so much canned food, and it wasn't all the stuff from the back of the cabinets. A lot of it was good stuff that the church, who had pre-agreed to take all the canned foods, we had to rent a U-Haul truck not a big one, like a 14-footer, but we had to rent a U-Haul truck to put all this food in. They couldn't take it all. They didn't want to take it all. So we ended up having to, donate to another source too, because we got so much donated, because this is the time of year where people want to, obviously make a contribution. You're giving them the easy button to do so. And you're tying your own personal name, your brand to all this, showing of gratitude. But if you do it, tie it with a movie, tie it with a feel-good movie, do it on a Saturday. You can then stand up in front of the theater prior to the showing of the movie. Maybe you do it 3 times, maybe you do it once, and you give them a little spiel. Thank you for showing up for Tim and Julie Harris's annual, Christmas family celebration. We really appreciate you sponsoring the ABC food drive, those types of things. That is and you could even actually, I had a coaching client do this prior to the movie. You could even put up a little commercial if you wanted to, a little slide or something. Movie theaters, usually charge for that, but they'll do it for free. It's just a slide. And then you're off to the races. All right, Julie.
Well, so in December, we have some other choices as well. Holiday toy drive, not so different than the food drive. We're just doing toys. Again, the fire department, the police department, all of these organizations already have this set up. So a lot of you listening don't do stuff like this because you feel like it's this monumental event that you've got to do from grassroots. Just piggyback on somebody else's event.
But Julie, let's drill down on these. Okay. These are great ideas, but we need to give them more specifics. Otherwise I won't implement them.
Sure.
So the fire department, generally speaking, does the Toys for Tots thing, and they do without a doubt the best job of, deploying presents.
Promotion.
But exactly. So you can do an event where you're collecting the presents, and then the presents you didn't just donate to the fire department. You guys get it? So you're not actually having to figure out your own system for the toy donations.
Right.
You're just doing a promotion on top of their annual promotion. And then you're just taking the presents over to the fire department and then donating them. Obviously, finishing.
You're doing the gathering. They're doing the distribution.
And you probably don't even need to ask their permission to do it. They're not, what are they going to say? No.
They're going to be super grateful that you added onto their event.
Yeah. So don't overcomplicate it in your mind. Just go ahead and do that. If for no other reason, do it for your centers of, do it for your centers of influence and past clients, but you might also want to do it for at least your, a community. Just be strategic about it, because these things again go a long way. If you do have a physical real estate office, you can make your real estate office a drop-off point too. Lance and Karen, you mentioned them yesterday, Julie. They had their gorgeous office in Kennewick, Washington. They do every year pictures with Santa. And they do one of the best promotions ever. I think Lance told me it's one of his, the killer ideas. They hire I don't mean literally killer. I mean, it's not like a Santa slasher. But anyway, so Santa shows up, the whole thing, the elves, the elves, the whole, rigmarole. And people show up with their kids, stand in line, have pictures taken with Santa. What a killer idea, right? Ooh, killer again. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so we're still in December here. One of my other favorites is the wrapping paper project. Our coaching clients love this project. They post pictures of it. They have almost like a competition for the best saying to go with the wrapping paper project. So what is that? You go to your dollar store right around like between Halloween and Thanksgiving. They typically go on sale for like 50 cents a roll. You're not going to have that much money in this. And you buy wrapping paper rolls in bulk. Okay. You want to have some that are very Christmassy, maybe some that are just snowflakes and snowmen to keep it, non-denominational if that's important. So wrapping paper project, you're going to attach a note to the roll of wrapping paper that says something like, don't get wrapped up with the wrong real estate agent. Okay. And gift stickers with tags that say, stick with me for all of your real estate needs. You can make it really cute. Some of our clients put candy canes on the top. They put curly ribbon. You can really make this up. It's not just like handing somebody a wrapping paper roll. You're putting a message on it. You're making it special. You tie it with the candy cane and a ribbon. You can use these for open houses, for past client pop buys, for farming, for delivering to expireds and for sale by owners. You can go to new construction model homes and schmooze with the new build reps. Lots of different ways. Most of our coaching clients will go through 200 to 300 rolls of wrapping paper. I've already seen pictures of them basically, looking for sales in the middle of the summer when, the places can't get rid of them. They're picking up 100 for cheap and they're just stashing them in their closet until it's time for the wrapping paper project.
You got to call. I mean, if there's no dollar store scenario, they're not like everywhere. Generally speaking, they're in average, I would say lower to
like Dollar General does this.
Yeah, but call the store manager, and especially if it's off season, and ask them, because they definitely have big crates of this, wrapping paper somewhere in the warehouse, and tell them that what you're after, and then they'll dust it off. So don't just walk in there and be surprised if in May there's no wrapping paper out. So call the manager, and he'll probably fish some, or they'll fish some out for you.
You can find it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's more. We talk about this all the time in Premier Coaching because our clients come up with even more ideas. There's many different versions. Go ahead.
There's some non-spokens benefits that come from all this. Obviously, seeing yourself and putting yourself in a position of making a contribution to the community. There's all that feel good stuff, but also a lot of this stuff is going to make you feel really good too, because most of the country during the holiday season, it's a little bit slower and it's easy for agents to get caught in their own melancholy, and because there's not as much transactional volume, your anxiety sometimes, all the things, and holidays in general are stressful, but there's also other little times of year where it's naturally slower, like where you sometimes will find yourself building anxiety. For example, when kids go back to school, you might want to do a promotion for, I don't know, you use your own creative brains to come out with something.
There's a great one where you do like a school supply backpack run.
That's a good idea.
A lot of churches and a lot of schools will do that. They'll say, we're looking for 100 backpacks filled with this list of things for our second graders. And you can sponsor that. So that's a fun one too.
Well, this one's kind of gross, but we still did it around Halloween, Julie, where kids would knock on the door for, for Thanksgiving, for, Halloween candy.
Mix your holidays now.
I know. We would give them, we went to town and giving them these ridiculous candy bags and put our business cards in them. I mean, like I said, it's a little gross, but still that definitely worked. Because the kids would
try and come in the house, man.
They would. These kids would come home with all these little dink, Snickers, and then here's this big, gross bag from Jim.
We did Cheryl's cookies one year.
Yeah, we did.
No bribery going on there, but
no, exactly. Yeah, but anyway, it's funny too, Julie. When we are doing all those community events, especially in New Albany, we did these on on a regular basis because we saw the benefit it created for us. It made all the proactive lead generation that much better that we started having real estate agents crash our parties.
I know, good stuff there.
Well, no, but they would like, we aren't inviting real estate agents to our, whatever toy drive or whatever. I mean, it's especially at our house, and they just show up anyway. And then we just, okay, well, you're going to be here anyway. You're going to, we're just going to deal with it. But it was so funny. I remember one year we were doing, and Sandy showed up, remember? And she was actually in there, and she showed up with like 3 of her assistants, and she was in there trying to like network at the people at our party.
At our event. I know.
At our event. It was so
What
gross.
happens when they get big? I know.
Yeah. Well, it's when our events got big. Yeah. Anyway, so it's fun.
Exactly.
Guys, so listen, hopefully this is educational and it's motivating you to realize that it's in this day and age, in any day and age, if you really wanted to go to the next level in the eyes of your community, if you really want to build a brand that lasts forever, and we've been telling you the perils of over-investing in social media, thinking that's what's going to make it so that you have this indelible brand that lasts generations, it isn't really going to be the thing, because now everyone's doing it, and everyone's going to be even doing it more so because of AI. But AI cannot do a pumpkin drive. AI cannot donate blood. AI cannot do any of the things we just rattled off. This is the reason that anything that puts you in a position to have meaningful conversations, especially when you position yourself as being a contributor to the community, that's the special secret sauce. That how many people actually do these things nowadays? I know the only ones are our coaching clients and the top producing agents in the nation. They would never, if you ask any of the top producing agents in the nation, if you ask them when they're on their panels talking about all their, fancy whiz bang CRMs and the rest of it, and you ask them, and they were honest, what would be the 3 things that you would do every single year if you had to only do those 3 things to generate all your business? I guarantee you all 3 of them would be in alignment with what we've been showing you guys the past 2 days as far as centers of influence and past clients, because they know that's where most of their business comes from. But the reason they talk about all the other stuff is because it's sexy, because people want to hear about it, because they don't want to seem like all their business comes from the fact that they, give away pumpkins. That doesn't sound that interesting. They want to make them sound like they're, some sort of Mars landing AI, forward thinking CRM dripping, complicated 14 different layer, 56, lead follow-up touch system. But the reality of it is 61% of all agents' business after 5 years comes from centers of influence and past clients. And you, for the most part, can do all this stuff for free. So hopefully this encourages you guys to be educated, be motivated. Now it's up to you to get into action. In the meantime, listen to our Friday show tomorrow. It's our unplugged show, frantic, freeform,
Fun Friday.
Fun Friday. There you go.
Yeah.
So listen to the show tomorrow. Your homework from this show and every other show is obviously subscribe to the newsletter. And if you've not yet done so, please do join Premier Coaching. In the meantime, have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.